Hey guys, evening, and how's it going? Welcome back to another Bible reading. Really excited to get into Matthew 7 today. I think it'll be really fun and really good, so I'm curious to see kind of what we get from that and if anybody else has any, thoughts and stuff like that. So I always love talking about this stuff. Quick update though. So, as I've mentioned before with our streaming schedule, it's going to vary depending on my work schedule. I try to keep that up in the Discord, so if you want to join that for sure. I try to post on YouTube as much as I can to keep you guys updated, Monday and Wednesday respectively, all at 7 p.m. CST. But for now, I say we get right into Matthew chapter 7. And then if the fan is too loud, definitely let me know in the comments, guys, and I'll try to do that. But last time you said you couldn't really hear it, so hopefully it's a non-issue. Matthew chapter 7. Judge not, that you be not judged. Already I have something to say. This is very good. This is one of the most taken out of context verses in the entire Bible. Read with context. Please read with context. Oh my gosh. Because people will say this, so you can't judge anything. That's not true. That's not biblical. That's not good. But let's go ahead and read that context. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use it will be measured to you. This is a good point, though, right? That we can't hold other people to higher standards. And it'll go further into this. We're all saved by the grace of Christ. This doesn't mean, though, that you don't bring up, when a brother is falling short. When we see repetitive sin. There's a certain way to do it. That's the better way. But this does not mean that you don't just ever bring anything up. Why do you seek the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take out of your own eye, the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Don't be a hypocrite, and then you can do this. And I think that's so important, but it's something that they never go to. First, make sure that you are not falling to that same sin, right? I'm struggling with my health. I need to lose weight. I'm not going to go look at somebody else that's overeating, and you should probably eat healthier. First, I need to get myself in check, and then I can give them advice and help them out of that. But it doesn't mean that I tell them, or that I never help them with that issue, or that I never, bring it to the light or mention it, right? So there's a lot of wisdom that we can get out of this that a lot of people don't really follow quite well. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. Oh, dude, we're getting into some good stuff already. My gosh. Warhammer, what's up, dude? I actually love this one. Of course, it's a Bible, so a lot of stuff is going to be controversial. If you're watching and you're not a Christian, I challenge you, do your best. Don't take this as an insult, right? A lot of people, so you think I'm a pig? Like, it's ridiculous. Let's look at the context. Don't give to dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. The point is, pigs will trample and eat anything. The point isn't insulting people who don't agree with you in the Bible. The point here is that pearls are valuable, right? Pigs don't understand the value of what they see. If you put cash on the ground, like in front of your cat, and then you put catnip on it, they're going to tear that money up. It could be $1 million. They don't care. They don't understand the value of what they're trampling over. And that's the point of this verse. This goes in really well to when you're sharing the gospel, and this is something I had to learn really the hard way. I know a lot of people struggle, and I've struggled with this before, on when you're sharing your faith, and you should be able to defend it. But a lot of people struggle with, man, if they don't turn to Christ, I must have done something wrong. We need to share the gospel, but we also need to understand that God saves, right? There is a balance in this, and you should be able to, make a case and defend it well. But in the end, God is the one, the Holy Spirit's the one who moves on them, and they also have to make that choice. So understand, make a case, we do need to share the gospel and so on, but understanding that if people are not receptive, sow that seed and then give it to God, right? There are a lot of people in debates, though, that will mention something that's really important, right? There are a lot of times when you see on YouTube or when you see Facebook or whatever, where people have these arguments. If you guys know, Cliff Knetley is a really good example. Charlie Kirk's more political, but he talks about a lot of this stuff as well. Is when you make a point and you're arguing with somebody who you know is just never going to accept it. There are people like that who are not open, who are argumentative, who are not willing to, listen to reason no matter how much you kind of push to it. They will keep arguing. In many cases, it's not wise to do that, but they will keep arguing for the audience, for the viewer. That way, if you're watching and you're saying, wow, I really actually don't know this argument, or I don't get it, instead of just saying, well, they're just not going to listen to me, they play it out and they give evidence and they actually speak with them, not for that person per se, because in that case it would be wise, obviously, to, sow that seed and, give it to God, but because the people watching, right, will be able to see the evidence you provide and they'll be able to make sense. In fact, actually, I'm going to duplicate this real quick. There's actually a verse, I believe it is in Psalms, that talks about this directly. And it's really funny because it's placed one after the other. But one mentions basically, not to talk to, not to argue with a fool, right? But then right afterwards, pretty much it also says, don't let a fool speak and, not be objected against. And the reason why that wisdom is there is because, if you're arguing with a fool, you're kind of wasting your time, right? You're kind of hitting your head against a brick wall. You're not gonna beat them in that argument. You know what I mean? Like, if they're not willing, whatever. They're not looking for the truth. However, the contrast to that, and this is why I love this, is if you just let them speak on something they may know nothing about, or blah blah blah, whatever the situation is, and you don't challenge that, the people around might just take it as truth because it's not been challenged. So there's nuance and wisdom that you need to apply in these situations. And that's just one of the many reasons why I actually love this. We can actually probably look it up later if you guys are curious. I'll try to find the verse, maybe post in the Discord. But yeah, no, this verse is really good, as I'm sure you can see. Ask and it will be given. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks it will be opened. Or which one of you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law of the prophets. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy, that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Beware of false prophets, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bear bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruits. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? And then I'll declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. We got to keep that. Our salvation is in Christ alone. But it's not by works, how they mention here. Did we not prophesy and cast out? Did we not do good enough, right? It's not by works that save us, but Christ. But if that faith is genuine and the Holy Spirit is within you, it will convict you and sanctify you over time. We cannot, only God knows, the heart of man, right? But we tell and we see the evidence based on a person's actions and their livelihoods, how they change. I've known people who I'm convinced 110% that have been saved, but their starting point is very different from other people. They had almost no exposure really, to Christianity in terms of, they had exposure to Christianity, but not to the same degree as many others in terms of understanding, biblical values and this, that, and whatever. So they were very willing to do certain sins that I would discuss with them, and they were very protective over it, like, they actually believed they were right and that God would support them over it. And I actually felt in the spirit when I was talking to this person, just to give it to him for this one. So I just let it go. And months later, they actually messaged me back, started up a good conversation. They brought it up, and they actually came to that conclusion, through reading the Bible and prayer, that they were wrong. All on their own, because that truth is evident. So it's one of those things, you can see the evidence, but just because people start from a certain point, it's going to be a work in progress, that sanctification over time. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent, but you guys know me. My brain goes a million miles an hour and doesn't stop. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. But it did not fall, because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. Talking about foundation, there's so many things in the Bible that this can really be applied to, honestly. Obviously, Jesus being our rock, being our foundation, these values. It also mentions, too, in the Bible, that out of our heart, flows like the words of our mouths, if you're extremely angry, doing this, that, whatever, and you're speaking a certain way, there's something going on, you know what I mean, deeper that you really got to look at. You got to look at the root and the foundation of it. And it's such a good point. If I'm claiming to follow Christ and I'm allowing to myself, for example, to watch, inappropriate movies, you know what I mean? I'm going on here, this, that, whatever, and I'm seeing like a lot of stuff I shouldn't be seeing. Oh, well, it's not a big deal. I'm not watching that or this direct sin. But we got to understand that those little things matter. And I'm not setting myself up for success, right? Building a foundation leads to success later in life. That's why those little things matter, because it's what you're building off of. So those little things every single day that we think aren't important very much are. And how we live our life, that basis, that foundation that we come from is the authority of Jesus. And when Jesus finished these sayings, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one who had authority and not as their scribes. Jim Green, what's up? Yeah, I like that too, for sure. Matthew 7's really good. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, obviously I know like a lot of the stories that are in Matthew, but I don't have like each chapter like memorized specifically. But man, chapter 7 came out swinging right away. That was a lot. That was really good. You guys have any thoughts you want to share? I think we'll give maybe a second if you guys want to chat, if you have any thoughts on this passage, and then we'll probably call it for today. But yeah, each of these, there's so much packed into each of these, and I like it a lot, honestly. There's so much wisdom in Matthew. But I guess that is where we're probably going to call it. I was talking about the story from earlier, but no matter. Oh, which story? Sorry, there's a lot packed in Matthew chapter 7. There are like 4 different sections. There's actually a lot. Yeah, this is one thing too. If we ever do a collab talking about, God and stuff like that, man, I can talk for hours, guys. Maybe I should eventually start a podcast. I don't know though, because it'd probably never end. This is one that always, honestly, like, kind of terrifies me a little bit. Not, well, kind of this one, but let me see. It's the never knew you. Yeah, it's this one, honestly. Giving me that confidence in my salvation. But this is definitely one that I've struggled with a lot, But I think it's good understanding context with a lot of that. Because it's mentioning, on that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? It's showing, like, all the people who are justified in their own sight. When Jesus came, like a lot of the scribes, for example, we did all the works, we did all the good things, not understanding the heart of the law. For example, I know a lot of scribes, in the Talmud, they would even, and the rabbis, there are many not actually committing adultery, so it's actually not a sin. But Jesus actually mentioned, that they do not understand the heart of the law, right? That to even look at a woman with lust is sinful, is committing adultery with her. So like things like that I think is incredibly important, that we not try to be technical with it's not written down so it's okay, and focusing on really understanding you know, the heart of the law and what it's actually teaching us, why it's teaching us that, and so on. That way we can make those good decisions for the future. Did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons and do all these mighty works? But here, calling them workers of lawlessness, you know, focusing on their own righteousness, you know, instead of Christ's sacrifice, and then actually practicing the heart of law, you know, actually obeying God. But yeah, no, I really love this, honestly, and I'm really excited to keep going on with Matthew, so yeah. But I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Hope y'all enjoyed, and hope you guys have a blessed Sunday. Peace.